Good morning, everyone. My name is Karla, and you have reached my FlossTube channel, KarlaBeingCrafty, where I talk about mostly cross stitch, but also other crafts that I'm involved in, and a little bit of life thrown in. Today is Sunday. It's February 7th, and this is my FlossTube number 80. Today is actually going to be a lot of life thrown in, as you may already know based on the title of my video, and also if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook. I don't think I have very many stitching world people on that I'm connected to on Facebook, but I do have a lot on Instagram. I lost my mom a week and 2 days ago now, which is why I didn't do a video last week. So I'm going to be talking about that, and talking about my mom, and talking about stitching and crafts and all that kind of stuff, because she's so much a part of that. But I just wanted to tell you ahead of time, I may get emotional. I don't know if talking about what happened and my mom is gonna make me get weepy, or if I'm just gonna feel warm and soldier through. I have no idea. So it will be an adventure for us both, but I am going to talk about that kind of stuff. So if that's a trigger for you, I understand, and I will hopefully see you next week. So I want to say welcome to everybody who's new. This may not be the best first video to watch if you've never seen me before. Then again, you're going to see me at perhaps my best and my worst. I don't know. So if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for coming by. Thank you for supporting me. First, I just need to say a big thank you to everybody who has reached out to me on all the different social media platforms here and Instagram and everything, and personally email with all of their condolences and prayers and good thoughts when I had said that mom was sick. And it's meant a really lot how many people have been kind to me, and people who knew my mom, who told me how wonderful she was and how much they loved her if they knew her really well, and how much they enjoyed her if they had just met her. A couple of people in the Southern California stitching group were able to meet my mom a couple times because I took her to a couple stitching events before the COVID, which is a big part of this story, I guess. So let me get into it. Actually, before I do that, because I don't want to forget, and I had mentioned say this last week before everything happened, I have two wonderful people give me a little stitchy kindness in the form of buy me a coffee. So thank you so much to Jennifer Hildebrandt and Stacy Hall for giving me that little bit of monetary and really emotional support, because that's what it does. I mean, yeah, you're giving me a little bit of money, which helps with postage for my channel. Postage, which I haven't used because I haven't done anything with my December giveaways. I know I'm horrible, but you guys please just bear with me. It will happen eventually. I haven't really been in a mental headspace to do anything like that this week. So Jennifer and Stacy, thank you so much. If any of you are interested in throwing a little stitchy kindness my way, I do have a link below for the buy me a coffee. Again, completely unnecessary, but totally appreciated, and fun for me to get those little remembrances. So but I just want to say thank you to those two people. This happened, I got those way before stuff really happened with my mom, so I had meant to say thank you on the last video, and of course I didn't do one. So for those who kind of want to know the circumstances, I had said on my last couple of videos, my mom lived in an assisted in a nursing home about 10 minutes from me. It's very close to her, physically and emotionally, and I saw her probably every other week, a couple times a month, regularly. I taught her cross stitch. She taught me needlecraft from a very young age. She'd never done counter cross stitch, and when I started doing it, she hadn't done anything with a needle in a really long time, and it was something that was kind of missing from her life, and I introduced her to counter cross stitch because I thought it was something that she would be able to do, especially on a large count Aida. So I introduced her back to it, and she really enjoyed it a lot. And she loved me doing these videos. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Anyway, so she's lived in a nursing home that had been extremely good about coronavirus protocols. They locked down the facility earlier than California required. They did it about 2 or 3 days before it became a mandate. And they kept their facility COVID-free until last month. That meant I did not get to see my mom for that entire time. We had a lot of plans for when COVID was over. You know, we were going to get together. We were going to go to this restaurant. We were going to go to that restaurant. I was going to bring her McDonald's, you know, which I used to do all the time. And which sounds like a little thing, but when you live in a facility and you don't get that kind of thing, she would like crave a hamburger and a Frappuccino from McDonald's, and I would bring her that. So we had a lot of plans. Things that I kind of regret now. Her birthday was in April. She passed away just a little bit short of her 80th birthday. So her 79th birthday last year, I had asked on my channel for people to send cards for my mom because she was in lockdown and we never thought it would go this long. And so I have a huge bag of cards and just wonderful things that everybody sent for her. And she knew that she had gotten a big stack. She didn't want them. Well, she wanted them, but she didn't want me to mail them to her for her to open by herself. She wanted to wait until I could bring them over and open them with her and read them with her. And she was really looking forward to that. It was like going to be a treat at the end of COVID. And we never thought it would keep going into the next year even. So I have a big stack of cards for her and things I've been collecting for her over the past year, you know, body wash and just all kinds of stuff that I would get, some more cross-stitch patterns, kits, and things that I would get for her, and just stick them in the bag, because when I see Mom again, we talked, you know, almost every day, every other day, and then when COVID started, my brother made really concerted effort to try and call her every day. So when she was talking to him a little bit more, she didn't talk to me as much, just because she doesn't, you know, she didn't need to. So I talked to her at least like once or twice a week. Anyway, so she had stayed, everybody there had stayed healthy until January. She got her first COVID shot 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. And I, at that time, had received a call from the facility that she had gotten her first shot, which was the good news. And then the bad news was that they had something like 11 or 14 people that had COVID, that they had isolated in a separate area of the facility. And but Mom got her shot. By the next week, they had 40 people with COVID. And Mom was one of them. And by the week after that, there was like 57 out of 67 people, something like that. There was like 12 people at that point that didn't have it. By now, it could be everybody. I don't know. So, when she was first diagnosed with COVID, or when we were first told, she was asymptomatic. She remained basically asymptomatic for the entire time until she was taken to the hospital. She never got a fever. In fact, when she was taken to the hospital, she was hypothermic and her fever was in the 80s. And she never had any kind of blood oxygen drop, and she never had any coughing or respiratory or anything. She was very upset the whole time. In hindsight, she was probably getting a bladder infection. She had chronic UTIs. She's had them for the last 10 years. And they have gotten so bad that she's ended up in the hospital because, you get to be medicine resistant and they just come back more virulent. And she had every kind of test you can imagine. She didn't have bladder cancer. She didn't have a tumor. She didn't have anything. She just had these chronic UTIs, which does happen, especially with women who are in a wheelchair because your bladder doesn't fully empty and they're just, there can be infection that just never really goes away. So she did have chronic UTIs. And again, hindsight, they don't know if COVID caused the UTI or she had a UTI and because of COVID it was worse. It was kind of all intertwined. So a week ago, last Wednesday, she had COVID for about a week or so. And again, my brother and I didn't get to really talk to her during that whole time because she just was upset, and she was in pain with her neuropathy in her legs and stuff, and so she had been taking pain medication, and she was just kind of out of it. And so when we called every day, we couldn't get through to her. But we were talking with the nurses, and everything was still fine, and no symptoms, and etc. So a week ago, last Wednesday, I got a call in the middle of the day that they had gone in to give her lunch, and she was kind of unresponsive. Not like out, but just unresponsive. Which, again, in hindsight, is kind of a typical thing that would happen when a UTI got bad. So they had taken her to the emergency room at the hospital. I, of course, called my brother and sister-in-law. Stacy has become, or over this whole course, kind of was my brother and I's advocate, the mouthpiece, if you will, for our family. So she was kind of like the point person. She asked people to call her. She actually has went through a, her father had been ill at the end of his life about 4 years ago, and she had to deal a lot with medical personnel and all this kind of stuff. And so she kind of knew the things to ask and the things to listen for. And she, even though, of course, she was emotionally involved with my mom and loved my mom, she wasn't quite as emotionally attached and as my brother and I. So she was able to listen a little bit more detachedly, so that like when I first heard that she was going to the hospital, I didn't ask anything. I was like, okay, it was hard. It's hard to remember the things that you want to know. So anyway, Stacy had called the emergency room and was talking to the nurses and getting updates on what was going on. And at that point, when they first brought her in, she just had really low blood pressure. Again, she was hypothermic. And that was really all that we knew. They were trying to get her blood pressure back up. And then later in that evening, after I came home, Stacy had an update, and she said that they were going to try to admit her to the ICU. And that was, that was the latest news. About 5 minutes after I hung up with Stacy, I got a phone call from the hospital, and it was a doctor. And he's like, have you heard about your mom? And I'm like, yeah, we just were on the phone with a nurse. And he's like, well, if you want to see her, you better come down tonight. So, of course, that's kind of devastating, especially now in the age of COVID, because you cannot go to the hospital. They don't allow anybody in there. So I called Stacy back. My brother had just stepped out of the house to go pick up their daughter from the cheer gym. And she said, hold tight, calm down, because I was getting a little bit hysterical. And she's like, I'll call you right back. She called back a few minutes later. She's like, her friend, Marcy, was on their way over to stay with the kids. She said she'll be here in 10 minutes. Erin just got here. we will be on the way to pick you up. So they live about half an hour from me, south, and the hospital is a little bit west, I guess, of me, about 15 minutes or so. So they were there to pick me up, and we went to the hospital. And again, they don't let you in the hospital. We sat in the car for a little bit, and Stacy was calling the nurse in the emergency room, and she's like, it'd be better if, we're moving her to the ICU. It'll be better if you wait till she gets to the ICU and is more settled and everything. So we waited a few minutes, and then we went, and there's only one entrance into the hospital now. It's through the emergency room. That's where everybody's entering and exiting. And again, they are not letting anybody into the hospital. No visitors, zero. So we went up there, and they're like, well, you can't come in. And we were told to come. We were told to come by the doctor. And then there was a whole big thing because, the emergency room told us to come, but now she's in ICU, and you need to talk to the ICU people. And it was kind of, it was frustrating. And these people are in a very difficult, situation, and they're not letting anybody in the hospital. And the security guard, we were sitting there waiting because somebody was going to go and talk to people or whatever. And the security guard, who's the one who has to escort you, if they do let you in, he's like, well, they don't let anybody in unless, the person's dying. And, we looked at him and we're like, uh-huh. And he was like, oh, okay. So then a nurse came out from the emergency area who was not the one that we had talked to. The one we were talked to was with the patient. And she's like, okay, I'm going to have to go up to the ICU and talk to people and just hold tight. So anyway, eventually they came and they're like, okay, you can go up. Only 2 of you. So Stacy stayed downstairs. My brother and I went and followed them into the hospital, which was like strangely, eerily quiet because there's nobody there except patients in the rooms and the staff. We were double masked. We were like hands in pockets. We didn't want to touch anything. It's scary. We're going into a hospital that's full of COVID. Of course, we wanted to go in, but in hindsight, I'm glad we did it because I would have regretted not going, but, what purpose did it serve? We got up to the ICU. There's a glass wall. We're looking at Mom, looking teeny in a little bed, behind a glass wall, and her eyes were kind of open, but she was not seeing anything, or she was just there. She was being given oxygen, but no ventilator or anything like that. And she was on the machines. Her blood pressure was still going from very low to very high from the medicines. We stood there, we stared at her for 10 minutes. The doctor was never able to come over and talk to us, but a nurse was talking to us and basically said, you guys are going to have to think about what you want as far as, resuscitation, that kind of thing. And, we asked him, what's the prognosis? And, they're like, it's not good. So we stayed there for about 10 minutes looking at her. We couldn't hold her hand. We couldn't touch her. We couldn't talk to her. We just looked at her. Which didn't do any of us any good, really, except to realize that we were kind of in the final stretch, final time. So we went home. And Aaron and Stacy were driving back to my apartment, and Stacy was like, we're going to get to your apartment, go inside, give the cat extra food, grab some pajamas, you're coming back to our house, and, we'll see what happens. I was the first one who said it, but all 3 of us were thinking this. This was Wednesday the 28th. I'm sorry, Wednesday the 27th. Thursday the 28th was Logan's 13th birthday. Logan is a very sensitive child, and all 3 of us, while on the one hand being heartbroken over what was happening to Mom, were praying that she didn't pass on Logan's birthday. Because if she had, it would just have devastated this child, and he would never have been able to enjoy his birthday because he's that kind of kid. It just, he wouldn't have been able to enjoy his birthday. He would have felt bad every year. And so the 3 of us were just praying, you know, Mom, if you have to go, hang on. And in fact, we talked about it and kind of made a little pact that if something happened on the Thursday, we weren't going to say anything. We were going to wait until after midnight. It didn't come to that, but we were just hoping beyond hope that Mom would hold on. And we kind of like to believe that she did, that she held on for her grandson, because she knew it was his birthday, and she knew he wouldn't, how hard that would be for him. So Thursday, as I said, was Logan's birthday, and we were trying to have a normal, fun day for him. You know, we had some special food planned. I wasn't supposed to be there, but they had, you know, special, you know, lunch and dinner planned, and he got his birthday gift from his parents, which was a VR, and, you know, for a tech kid, you know, he got that, and that was it for the day. I mean, he was like, he had that thing on his face. It looked ridiculous, but he was enjoying it so much. The Omni something, I don't know. If you're into that kind of thing, when I just said Omni something, you'll be like, oh, you got that? Yeah, you got that. So, we got a call in the morning from the palliative care team at the hospital to talk to us about what we wanted. And my brother and I talked about it, and we told them, and again, it never came to this, but we did tell them that we did not want her intubated or put on a respirator at this point. That we just think that it would be dragging out something that was kind of a hopeless situation. That was the impression we were getting from everybody we were talking to, and we just didn't think that those kind of measures should be made. We also were learning from Stacy's experience with her dad. He was put on a respirator and went through dialysis, and I mean, obviously had nothing to do with COVID. He had been ill with type 1 diabetes since he was a child, but he lingered for like 5 weeks, basically not lucid that whole time, and that's not something that we wanted for Mom. So we did talk to the palliative care team and told them that, and made that decision. And Erin got another call during the day from the nurse who was carrying her for that day, saying, if you want to see her, you better come right now. We decided no. We saw her the day before. We didn't either of us wanted to think of her in that way. That's not the memory that we want to have of her. And we just didn't think that it would do any good when we couldn't hold her hand or give her any kind of physical comfort. Basically on Thursday, it was the same situation. Her blood pressure was going dangerously low. They would bring it back up with medication. They had pumped her full of fluids because trying to bring the blood pressure back up, and she had no urine output, which means her kidneys were shutting down. Her heart was starting to get affected. Her lungs were starting to get affected. She did have, at that point, she had COVID pneumonia, and everything was starting to go. So, but that was Thursday. We made it through the entire day of Logan's birthday. We all kind of breathed a collective sigh of relief at midnight. And that was Thursday. Then Friday morning, Stacy again called the hospital to check on her, and the nurse that was with Mom that day was very, very kind, and in a very compassionate way told us that Mom's body was trying to die, that her blood pressure was going more often down to 30. They would bring it back up with medication up to 50 to 70, and then the cycle would happen again and again, that she didn't seem to be in any pain, she wasn't lucid, she didn't seem to be uncomfortable, but that her blood pressure was just falling, and the only thing that was bringing her back was these very strong drugs that they were pumping into her every time that happened. So we got off the phone with her, and again we had a difficult discussion, and decided that we were going to ask them to take her off those medications. They had told us that they could do that. They would give her morphine to make sure that she was very comfortable, and they would do what they call comfort care, which is just the last stage of keeping somebody comfortable until it happens. And the nurse had told us that if we did that, she thought that it would be a matter of minutes or hours before Mom would pass. So we pretty much knew that it was going to be that day. Aaron and I left to go run a couple errands, and he brought me back to my apartment to get some more clothes and to feed the cat. And we talked in the car, good things. You know, we had memories of Mom and, you know, stories we were telling each other. And we did decide that when we got back from the errands, we would call the hospital and tell them to go ahead and take her off the medications. Again, I don't know if you believe that somebody's spirit knows these things, but again, I like to think that we didn't have to make that hard call. When we got back, Stacy said that she had gotten a call and that Mom passed very peacefully at 11:17 on the 29th. She was not alone. Excuse me. She was with the very kind nurse, and the nurse said she was holding her hand when she passed. So I like to think that she's with my dad. He was the love of her life. She lost him 45 years ago, 1976. And she has been in her heart married to him this entire time. She never dated again. She dated, I think, once. But she never remarried. She never really was with anybody else. She was in love with and married to my dad this whole time. So I like to think that she's back with him. So, was my mom compromised? Did my mom die from COVID? It was a factor. It was definitely a factor. She was not the healthiest person, but until 2 weeks ago, she'd been able to fight off all of the bladder infections and everything else. So if anybody is listening to me is one of those people that doesn't think it's necessary to wear masks or doesn't think that COVID is a real thing, I'm here to tell you that it took my mom sooner than anybody was ready for. And it meant that I hadn't seen her in almost a year before she passed. Okay, so now that part is done, and I know this is going to be a super long video. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Because I'm still going to go through all of my stitching. Alright, so Jewish tradition has very kind of specific ideas about mourning. The first 7 days after burial, first of all, you're supposed to bury somebody within 3 days in Jewish tradition. We chose cremation for my mom, which is not a Jewish thing to do. However, when my mom moved into this assisted living facility, it was the kind of situation where she basically signed over everything. All of her retirement, state teacher's retirement, everything that she was getting monthly went to them, and she got the small, like $35 a month stipend. When you do that, you have to make arrangements, final arrangements, if you want to do that before you go, because there won't be anything. You won't have anything to give or to use. So at that time, we decided that economically, it just made more sense for cremation. And my mom had a little bit of a problem with it. I have a little bit of a problem with it. Like, economically, environmentally, I think it's better. But religiously, it just isn't something that we usually do. So my mom and I talked about it a lot at the time and over the years. And what we decided, and this is the plan, I am going to hold on to her ashes until one of us has a home that has a permanent home with a backyard. So Erin and Stacy just bought a condo, but it's a little thing. There's, a patio. There's no backyard. And they do intend in the next couple years to move into, we're probably going to move out of the state. And when they go, I will probably follow because I'm going to want to be near them. But they're going to probably want to move someplace, either Arizona or Nevada, someplace that's close to here, but that is not ridiculously expensive like California. So when they move and they get their final home, that they do not intend to move out of, with a backyard, our plan is to get a rose bush, because my mother's name was Rosalind, which was actually Rosalind, but it was Rosalind. It was spelled Rosalind and pronounced Rosalind, but she was named after a grandmother, Rose, and she loved roses. So we're going to get a big rose bush, and she's going to be buried in the roots of the rose bush, and so we'll have her rose bush forever. And she really liked that idea, so that's the plan, for me to hold on to and earn for a little bit of time, and then eventually she will be a rose. And anyway, so back to Jewish tradition. Jews do this right after the burial. For the 7 days after the burial is called sitting Shiva. In normal days, non-COVID days, that would mean that the family basically stays at home and the community comes in every day to comfort them, feed them. Jews always bring deli. When everybody dies, there's deli. Feed them, just make sure that they don't have to deal with the outside world. This is not normal times. My brother and I both went back to work last week, because I came home. I can't stay at their house for the rest of my life. And I thought it would be better to go to work and be with my coworker and my boss than to be sitting at home staring at the walls. I wasn't that effective at work last week, but I was able to do a few things. We wear a black ribbon. It's kind of a little ceremonial thing that you do, and then in olden times they used to actually tear the clothes. We don't do that anymore, obviously. We do a symbolic tearing of clothes, and you wear this for a month. Some people traditionally then will wear it inside their clothes where it doesn't show for the next 11 months. So anyway, so you have this 7-day period of intense mourning. You cover all the mirrors in the house, which I did. You shower and you brush your hair, but you don't put on makeup and you don't pay attention to that kind of thing. My brother didn't shave for a week. Today's the first morning I uncovered all the mirrors. I put on some makeup, because we're out of that 7-day period. Then you're in like a 30-day period of, mourning. You still wear this on the outside so that people know that you've had this happen. And then after that month, privately, you have a year to basically, you say the mourner's Kaddish every week, and which, I'm not that religious. I don't go to temple, but and after a year, typically, because you typically buried the person, you have an unveiling, and there's a little ceremony, and then unveiling of the headstone, and then there's a little ceremony, and then you're out of mourning, and life is supposed to go on. And annually, you will say a prayer on the anniversary of the person's death. Which, by the way, the anniversary of my dad's death was Tuesday, so Mom died on Friday, and the anniversary of my dad's death was Tuesday, so I don't know if that's a coincidence. I don't know if that's a spiritual thing. I don't know. It just seemed a little weird, but so we had a 7-day memorial candle that we lit for my mom, and then halfway through we had the annual little candle that we lit for my dad. They were both there on the mantle. and my brother's. Okay, so going forward, I'm okay. Everything is making me think of my mom. I actually had to change my ringtone and text tone on my phone because every time I got a text message, I thought it was her, like momentarily, because really she's the one who texted me the most. And it was just every time I got a text message, it would be this little ping, and I was like, I don't want that. So I changed the tone, and you know, I keep thinking like, oh, I need to show this to mom, or oh, I need to call mom about that, and I guess that's gonna happen for a really long time. We had a Zoom memorial service for her yesterday, which was very weird but very nice. There's been a huge outpouring of people, as I said at the beginning, but people who knew her and just expressed to my brother and I how much they loved her and what a great woman she was. She really was. So as far as this channel, I mean, my mom is the one who taught me and inspired me and all this crafty stuff. She was extremely artistic and crafty, and she never thought she was artistic. She always thought my dad was the one who was artistic because he could draw, and she didn't draw. But she did needlework, and she sewed, and she was so, and she was like a fantastic cook, and she was very artistic, and I think I get that from her. So me doing this and me doing this channel is an homage to her. I mean, it has been from the beginning. And she loved watching my videos. She hasn't been able to watch them for the last several months because her phone was like dying. And again, that's another thing that we were going to fix when COVID was over. But anyway, I'm sure I'm going to be talking about moms more in this video and going forward in life. But I think it's time to get to craft stuff and the things that I did over the last 2 weeks, because like I continued to stitch, and will continue to stitch, and things might be impressed with more meaning now. Some things, yeah, it's part of my life that brings me closer to my mom, and so I'm really glad that I have it. So anyway, so let's get on to a normal FlossTube video, as normal as I can do today. Okay, so first thing I want to show you, Stacy and I spent last weekend doing crafts in between talking about mom and crying and laughing and telling stories and whatever. I taught her to cross stitch, and she's going gung-ho on it, so that's really exciting. The other thing that we did, I showed you those like huge giant balls of yarn that we had plans to do a finger knit blanket, and she and I both did a finger knit blanket last weekend while all this was going on. I of course did have the thought as I was working on it, it's like, this is really cool, I should make one for mom. But anyway, so we actually made matching ones, and here it is, and it's huge. Well, it's actually not huge, but it's super heavy. So this is my finger knit blanket made with huge balls of yarn. It's not perfect, there's mistakes, but I really like it. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it, though. I'm afraid to put it on my bed because I have Baggy. Not that he'll hurt it or anything, but, you know, he will want to lay on it. And this yarn is not machine washable. It's hand wash and hang dry. And this thing is kind of big, and I don't really have access to a washing machine. Well, I do have access here, but I don't use the washing machines here because it's just too much of a pain to go up and down the stairs. So I bring my laundry over to my brother's, and I don't know if I want to be hauling this. So I don't know. This might go, I have had it on the back of my craft chair here instead of a pillow, and it's very nice for that, but it's very nice and squishy, and it's not huge. It's more like a little lap type blanket. But it's really cool. We have another set of yarn, the same yarn, but we have a set of teal and then a few balls of navy, and Stacy and I are planning to each make one, like a teal blanket with like some navy stripes in it. And so that will be happening eventually when I go over there. Right now we're both enjoying cross stitching. She's doing diamond painting a lot, and then cross stitching, because she can do that in bed and on the couch and stuff like that. So this is my only finish, but it's a really nice blanket, and it's nice and squishy and huggable and stuff like that. So okay, that was my only finish. I do have a new start that I am actually loving this week. I started it on Monday. This was after Mom passed away. I had planned on starting it anyway, before all this happened. I mean, you guys have seen it. It's the Cats in the Rain pattern. And I'm doing this as a sal with Amy Sprinklestein stitches. So I posted when I started it on Monday, and I had said when I posted that, you know, Mom would love it, because my mom was, if you want to say 3 like symbols that would make me think of Mom: purple, roses, and cats, right? She would love this pattern. She did love this pattern. I had showed it to her several times, and she really liked it. So I thought it was really appropriate to start it anyway, and, you know, think of her while I'm stitching on it. And I posted that, and Amy came back. She said she was starting hers that night as well. And she said as well as the hashtag that I'm using of Be My Own Valentine Sal, which was the original thing, we added a tag, Cat Sal for Mom. So in honor of my mom. So she added that hashtag for me, which was, I don't know, it just really was a sweet thing to say and do and think. And so thank you, Amy, for that. Okay, so I had showed you guys before. I'm changing the colors a little bit. Instead of the yellow slicker, I'm changing it to a color called Enchanted by Coloring Cotton. And the umbrella, instead of navy, I'm changing it to this purpley pink color that matches my hair. So that's how far I've gotten on that. This is a piece of BestitchMe fabric. It is a linen. Still don't love linen, I gotta say. I mean, this is beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's gonna be so pretty when it's done. And I can do it. It's just, I don't like linen as much as evenweave and Aida. I just don't. But, you know, I tend to pick a fabric based on the color and the project, and this one just worked so well. So yeah, so I'm happy with it. I'm not having too much trouble. This is a pretty good quality linen. So yeah. So that's how far I got. On Cats in the Rain by Madame Chantilly. Did I say that, or did I say Alice on Adelaide? It's Madame Chantilly. Let's see. I have a thing in here I need to show you guys. Which I probably just dumped in here. But it's, you know, it's kind of like one of those, somebody being, oh, here's, super smart and using an everyday tool to help with stitching. So Stacy, as I said, is starting to cross stitch and is really enjoying it. And when I first showed her how to do it, the only problem was that she was having a lot of trouble threading her needle. Part of it is because Stacy, she doesn't have sight in one eye. She really, I mean, she does have vision in one eye, but she said that she actually doesn't use that eye when her brain doesn't use it. So she doesn't use her left eye, I think it is. Or her right eye. I don't know. One of her eyes, she doesn't actually use it for seeing. So she doesn't have any kind of depth perception. So threading the needle was just like really hard for her to connect. So I told her about needle threaders and stuff like that. And what she ended up doing is she's like, I have these things, I think they would work. So I don't even know if you're going to be able to see it because it's so fine. But this is actually a, it's a flosser for your teeth. For like if you have braces and stuff, you use this to get the dental floss like threaded through the braces or through dental work. This is working so good for her because this is kind of stiff. It's like a fishing line type plastic. It's flexible, but it's still stiff enough that she can thread this through the needle and then thread the floss through the loop and pull it through. So, and she got what, like 20 or 30 of them for like $1 something, for $2. So anyway, so I thought that it would be a good tip to pass on. These little floss threaders, meant for dental floss, but work really well for threading your needle. Tip from Stacy. Okay, next new start. I did have a second, little new start. Because when your 6-year-old nephew says, Auntie Karla, will you make me a Mario mustache and a Luigi mustache? You say, sure I will, Hudson. And you figure out a way to do it because he, you know, he thinks Auntie Karla can do crafty things, so she can do whatever I want. And he's Mr. Costume. He doesn't wear regular clothes. He wears costumes, basically. He loves Mario and Luigi, and so he wants me to make him mustaches that he can wear. So, I went online. I found little printouts of the shapes of Mario and Luigi mustaches, and realized that this was too big, so I reduced it. And the little red marks are the size of his mouth, so I think that those are the right size. And then I also went online and I printed out instructions for doing a turkey stitch. I don't think I'm doing it correctly, but a turkey stitch you can then, it's kind of like you make loops and then you can cut them and you can cut it as short as you want and you can make it brushy. And anyway, so I'm doing this on needlepoint canvas, and I just started. So those are the Mario and Luigi mustaches I'm working on. He expects them, you know, to be done super quick. I told him no, it's going to take me a while because this takes a long time. So that was my other new start for this week. These Mario and Luigi mustaches. Which, I'm sorry, I'm considering that a full-on project to make Mario and Luigi mustaches for my 6-year-old nephew. Okay, so then my whips over the last 2 weeks. As I said, last Thursday was or a week ago Thursday was Logan's birthday, and I was planning, before all this stuff happened, I was planning on going over there on Saturday for a get together, and I was working furiously to get Yoda done. And then, you know, I was supposed to have like 3 more nights to work on it, and then Mom went in the hospital, and you know, whatever. So I took this project with me and I showed it to Logan, and I told him I will get it done soon. And he thought it was great. Then, of course, he got his VR, so, you know, a silly little cross stitch doesn't create as much of an impression on a 13-year-old as the VR. But he did really like it, and so when I get it finished and get it framed, I think he's going to really enjoy having it on his wall. So I only have a little bit left. I've worked on it a little bit since then, although I kind of was focusing a little bit more on Cats in the Rain because I didn't feel quite as much urgency to get it done because he knows it's coming. And yeah, so yeah, I just have this little bit left to do as far as the regular stitching, and then I just kind of need to do some back stitch in the hands. So that is the Baby Yoda for Logan, who has been quite the little man this past week. You know, he was prepared for Grandma Ross to die on his birthday, and he didn't want it to happen, but he was prepared, and we're all just so grateful that she gave him that gift and held on until the next day. But yeah, he's had to have some adult dealing with some adult things on his 13th birthday, his first year as an adult by Jewish law, and he had to be one. He had to be there for his parents and there for his younger siblings, and he's been a really good kid. So, okay, so there is that project. Okay, so then I worked on Lavender Roses. Actually, I worked on this like 2 weeks ago. Before everything happened, I was planning on showing it to you last week. Oops. And I'm not taking off the stand, so bear with me there. But I finished this diagonal, and then I went up to the top and just did a few rows because I turned the corner. So I am at the very end here. So my diagonals are going to start getting shorter, and I'm about 2/3 done stitch count wise on this one. And this is Lavender Roses by Carrie Hawks. Stitching on this again, you know, cats and purple and roses. That's my mom. This is one of the first projects that I got when I first started stitching, and when I showed my mom the pattern, she was like, oh, is that for me? And I was like, no. But kind of in the back of my head, I thought, maybe. And now, you know, whenever I stitch on this, I'm going to think of her. When I stitch on half of the things I have, I'm going to think of her. I mean, let's be realistic. Okay. And then the last thing that I worked on this week, all things aside that have happened, you know, we started a new month, and stitching wise, I changed my theme for the month and the focus projects that I'm going to have. So this month is supposed to be floral. So my first week, I haven't spun my little wheel every day like I'm supposed to, and you know, I think things are going to get a little bit more back to normal starting next week. But I did work on one of the projects that I had earmarked for this month, which is Mouth of a Flower by Octavio Ocampo. That's what it looks like. And I worked on this, I think, on Thursday, and I finished that first bud. This is just done with DMC. So I had planned on, you know, showing you guys all of the projects, you know, from January, and then the projects from February, you know, what they all are, but this is gonna be long enough anyway, and I'll show them maybe next week. If I don't actually work on them all, if they don't come up on the wheel, then I will show you them anyway, so you kind of know where the starting point is on those. Okay, so that was it for whips. I still have been stitching like pretty much every day, even with all of this stuff going on. It's been a comfort to me, and you know, as I said, it's an homage to my mom whenever I do anything crafty. And I have a haul here. Part of it is stuff. Oh, I don't have like the basket like Annie Joyfield Stitcher, but I did actually kind of was stacking stuff in this little tray here thing. Excuse me. I lost my train of thought. Oh, I was saying I'm stacking things in the tray. What was I saying? Anyway, I have haul for the last 2 weeks. So some of this stuff is things that I had purchased before and before any of this happened. And before I go any further with haul, I have to show you something very special. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, a couple episodes ago I showed you a picture that my nephew Hudson, the 6-year-old, colored for me. In fact, it's right here. He colored me an elephant. He knows I like elephants. And he colored this for me. And when I showed it on the channel, I was like, you know, why is this a colored picture, Hudson? You should draw me an elephant because you're so talented. Well, he was watching the video, and as soon as I said that, he went running out of the room and got all of his stuff, and he drew me an elephant. And he also wanted to make sure that I was going to show it on my video and hang it on my wall. So I will be hanging this on my elephant wall back in the kitchen, back here, probably at the top. So you will see it next week hanging. But first, I wanted to show it that this is a commissioned piece drawn by Hudson Abrams for his Auntie Karla. So beautiful, isn't it? It does. Very, very special. Going to be worth a lot of money someday when he's famous, because he is going to be a Broadway star. Mark my words. Okay. What else? 2 other things I want to show you that are game changers, maybe. So again, because I showed Stacy how to cross stitch, you know, they don't have great lighting in the living room there for stitching. And so we both decided we needed some kind of light thing. I had gotten this. This is like the Edmonds. I got this from Joann's. It's an Edmonds clip light. Oops. This one, it has a battery of some kind in it. I'm assuming it's like a watch battery or something. This one is okay. It works in a pinch. It's okay. This one, which Stacy actually ordered for me, is a book light. Right? It's by Vikia, V-E-K-K-I-A. Came from Amazon. It was probably about $15. Comes in 3 colors. This thing is amazing. It's super light. Now I stitch on a hoop, so I don't think this would work if you do Q-snaps. I don't know that this is big enough. But on a hoop, it's perfect. It has 3 brightnesses. It is rechargeable, so you just, I'll just plug it in during the day when I'm not needing it, and then at night when I'm stitching. This is amazing. And in fact, I think I'm going to get another one of these so I can put it in my travel bag that I take over to Erin and Stacy's, because I took this one this past weekend, and this one's a little bit heavier and clunkier. This is just, it's amazing. So I'm telling you guys, if you stitch in a hoop, these game changer as far as light on your project. Really, really, really good. Okay, I got some sulky. Why? I don't know. I was, probably, to be quite honest, I was probably sitting in the bathroom with my phone, and I got, hey, I should get some sulky. And so this is blendables, and these are, I think these are spring colors. Yeah, spring collection. I think I got them from Amazon. They were not very expensive, all things considered, and I am really enjoying using sulky on 20 count fabric, so I got these. I don't have any immediate plans for them, but when I was sitting at my desk being worried about Mom on Wednesday, and before Wednesday, because I was worried about her because she was sick, I thought about Bellatrix here. I showed you this. I showed you the fabric that I had from a long time ago that was gifted to me that I've decided to use for this. And I decided to go ahead and kit her up because, yeah, I'm going to do like a pretty ladies thing, I think in March or April. April is when my mom's birthday is, so that might be a nice time to start it because she was a pretty lady. So I went ahead and kitted this up. I had to go to 3 different places. I went to 123 Stitch. I went to Garon Stitchery and Everything Cross Stitch, I think, to get all of the flosses. They're just, you know, DMC, but there was like one water lilies, I think, that I had to get. Yeah, here's the water lilies. And then all the beads and stuff. And 123 Stitch didn't have a bunch, so that's why I went to the other 2 places. And I still am missing 3 things that those 3 places didn't have. 123 Stitch does have them on their site. They're just out of stock. So I have the I don't know if it's a reminder. Anyway, they'll send me an email when those 3 things come in. So there's 1 color of DMC, and then there's 2 Krynics that that are out of stock. And Garon Stitchery didn't have them, and neither did 123 Stitch. Not 123 Stitch. Everything Cross Stitch. So I got all the beads, and I got all the whatever, and I'm going to go ahead and kit this up and start it in the next couple months, I think. I'm also have to kit up the hay that I'm going to start. I got all the flosses for that right here. That I'm going to be kitting up for Mania. For that pattern. I think, and I said this before, I think I'm going to go ahead and do an extra video at some point when I kit these things up to just show you my method for kitting things up like this. So I don't know when that'll happen exactly, but it will happen before I stitch them. Okay, so there's that. When I put in the order at 123 Stitch, sorry, Everything Cross Stitch, I was only getting a couple flosses and, you know, having to pay for shipping, I thought I'd get a little bit of fabric. And I got this, which is supposed to be a 20 count opalescent white Aida. Do you see any sparkles? I don't see any sparkles either. It says opalescent. This is just a piece of 20 count white Aida. Not worth it for me to argue or send it back or ask for something else. I will just use this, perhaps dye it, because I'm just not usually a just white anything person. So yeah, so I will probably dye this at some point, but it is a 20 count Aida. I got some fabric from eBay. This is a hardanger. It's a Silk Weaver Solo. It's baggy, which I got I thought it was really, really pretty. And it's a fairly decent sized piece. It's 18 by 26. So yeah, I thought that this was really pretty. Very me, and it was like 50% off, so it was a really good price. And the same seller have these 2 pieces of, I guess they're calling it Lugana Splash. This one is a 25 count. Again, 18 by 27. And this is Pink Powder Splash. And you see all those little dots. I thought that was really pretty. And I think that would be kind of a really interesting fabric, you know, for the right pattern. And then I got an 18 count light green. Splash. And I have an idea for this, which I will show you in just a minute. Okay, then before getting at Bellatrix, I had put in an order at 123stitch because I needed this one last color for the cat pattern that I just showed you, the Mania cat pattern. And of course, you know, I'm not going to buy 2 skeins of floss and nothing else, so I went in the fabric at that time, and I these were on sale. Well, this was on sale. This is a Lady Dot Creates cotton velveteen, and it's a very light lavender. This is on sale, and I thought that would be good finishing fabric. And then I still needed something to make the pillow for my Black Grace, my needlepoint pillow that I just finished, because I didn't like the thing that I thought I was going to use. So I got this Lady Dot Creates velveteen in black. And I think I will be able to make an envelope pillow back with this really nicely. And it's just, you know, it's a black velveteen. So that I got 2 pieces because I just wasn't sure, wanting to make the envelope back. I didn't think 1 would be enough. So two I think is going to be perfect. And I showed you already, I have the pillow forms and stuff for that. Okay, so, and then as long as I was buying from 123stitch, I decided to get a few more pieces of Picture This Plus. I wanted to get some even weaves because I really love the Picture This Plus Aida, the way it looks. I don't always love stitching on it. It's a little bit loosey-goosey for me. In fact, when I kitted up the project for Stacy that she's stitching on right now, I brought over a couple colors of an Aida, which is, well, it's all Aida, but a couple colors of like a, you know, a packaged Aida that were a little bit stiff. There was like a peach color and kind of a pinky color. And then I brought over a really pretty piece of Picture This Plus. And she picked the Picture This Plus first because it's so beautiful. And then she started stitching on it and she was just having trouble. And I'm like, you know what? I know exactly how you feel. I have a couple projects on that fabric and it is harder to stitch. So she ended up, you know, she was only like 2 or 3 stitches. And I'm like, you know, this is your first really kind of bigger project. Why don't you use the regular Aida? So we switched it and she's using the pink one. Just because the Picture This Plus Aida is so soft. But I wanted to try, take a look at the Lugana because it's just as beautiful as far as the way it's dyed, but it's a Lugana, so it's, you know, it's soft, but it's not loosey-goosey. So I got a 28 count Diva, and they're just these little pieces, so, you know, but if I do 1/1 on 28, that's actually a decent sized project. This is a Jazz, and this is Jade. And I like getting these little pieces. They're fairly inexpensive, and it just is a way to see the colors and everything. Okay, and then the last thing I got, so all of that stuff was ordered, you know, before all of this tragedy hit. But when my mom was in the last days, and then after she passed, of course my first thought is I want to stitch something for my mom. I know there's a lot of memorial pieces and things that are a little bit more somber, and that just doesn't feel right to me. So my first thought is I need to find something that feels right. And my second thought was I wanted to stitch it on with silk. I've never done a whole project with silk before, but I want to do something that just made it a little bit special. I don't think I'm ready to actually start it yet. Emotionally, I think maybe I'll start it on my mom's birthday. And that was what I was saying, that I think that maybe this green splash would really be pretty for it. So I found this chart. Always my mother, forever my friend, with the rose. I'm going to change this from pinks to purples. And if I stitch it on the 18 count, it's going to be smaller. And then I think I'm going to frame it with a picture of my mom that I've posted on Instagram. So if you were following me there, you saw the picture of her with the purple outfit, and she was like a flower fairy with this purple, looks like a morning glory hat. It's really cute, and she's holding a purple flower wand. And so I think that that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to frame it together. This one just spoke to me. I think that she would love it, and it really makes me think of her. It's pretty, and I'm going to change this to the purple, the roses to the purple, and purples and greens, so anyway, I think that it would look nice on the splash fabric, and I think the green splash would look really nice. So basically, the day that she died, or that night, I wanted to get that pattern. I knew I wanted to change colors, and I didn't want to think about it. So I mean, I overspent. I know I did. And I got way more than I needed. But I just wanted to get silks, and I didn't know what colors, and as I said, I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to have to decide and look at colors online. I just went in, I got the pattern from 123 Stitch, and I just went in and I picked some water lilies. So I got just all these purples, and they feel so nice. They're beautiful silks for my beautiful mom. I know that I'm gonna definitely use this one. And I also went on and I got silks from Hand Dyed by Rolanda. Again, purples and greens for this pattern. Way more than I need. I'm just gonna have to put the colors together and see which ones are the best. I knew I would need like a black, so I got a black, and I got some white toned ones. I think I got this one because it was on sale and it was pretty. So yeah, so I got all these silks for my mom to do this project for my mom. And then obviously I'll have them for other stuff, but this will be my first project that I'm going to do 100% in silks. And it's going to be really special. I'm not ready to start it yet, but I will be soon. And I wanted something, this is not a very big pattern. I'll be able to do this fairly quickly. And yeah, so that is my plan for that. I think that that's it. This is my longest video that I've ever done. Thank you for bearing with me and for letting me be emotional and letting me talk a little bit about my wonderful mom and how much I'm gonna miss her. I'm sure I'm gonna mention her 1,000 more times over the course of the year. My brother picked up her stuff on Friday. Of course, there's a concern because of COVID. We asked the facility to double bag everything, and Aaron had them put it in his trunk. It's kind of out of the way for him, but the reason I didn't go is because I don't have a trunk. I have a car that, you know, it's like a mini SUV, so it's all open, and Stacy's car is like that too, but Aaron actually has a trunk. So we had them put everything in the trunk, and we were advised actually by the people from the funeral home to just leave it in there for 2 weeks, and then everything should be safe to go through. So when that 2 weeks is up, I will go over there with the bag of stuff, and we will go through everything and decide what things we want to keep as remembrances and as legacy things. I will probably take her stitching and I will share it with you. There's 2 beautiful pieces that she's had for years that she did many years ago, and then, you know, she has a few cross stitch pieces that she's worked on recently, although not so recently. She hasn't, because she's waiting for me to come and help her with a mistake. But anyway, so that's another milestone of after somebody dies, going through their stuff, and we will be doing that in the next couple weeks. I think again that's it for this video. Thank you again. Thank you everyone who is there supporting me in spirit, sending me messages, sending prayers. It has helped a lot. I think, you know, grief is something you just have to go through, and I will be going through it for maybe forever. I still miss my dad, and he died when I was 10, so I do take comfort in thinking that they're together. I don't 100% know what I believe when it comes to all that stuff, but I do like to think that my mom finally was reunited with my dad. And Frodo's probably there too. And all of the other pets and friends and stuff that we've lost over the years. So, okay, that's enough for now. I will see you again next week with a regular video. Probably not one that's this long, which I'm sure will be a relief. And until I see you guys again, please remember to be content, be kind, and be crafty. Be crafty in honor of my mom, Rosalind Abrams. Thanks everybody. This is Karla. Bye-bye.